Hello and welcome. This is Sun and Moon Yoga Studios YouTube channel. I'm Annie Moyer. Welcome to meditation and my Dharma talk. So we'll start with just some quiet sitting for about 10 minutes. Step one, get comfortable. Feel the base of your body, whatever's making contact with the earth, settle, insert itself and assert itself downward. Feel a heaviness, an insistence on being here right now, as you are. And then corresponding to that heaviness, that anchored root, feel also a rising, a buoyancy, a lift away from the ground. Like there's a little bit of helium lifting you up like a balloon as you are fastened securely to the ground. So there's a dropping and a lifting, an expansion longitudinally. And adding an awareness to that, a similar expansion in the latitude, a width, a breadth, along with the breath, a widening of the rib cage as you inhale, and then a softening back in as you exhale. And then stay with these rhythms of breathing in and breathing out. Stay with this awareness of root and of rise. When you notice the inevitable wandering of your mind, be the participant, be a participant with it to bring it back. It will drift away and we bring it back. Remembering that the goal is never to stop your thinking because it will never work. The goal is to be as objective as possible about it, to not react to the thoughts or perpetuate them or turn them into stories. Just to notice them. And kindly, gently take their hand, bring them back. We can become interested in the details of our experience of the breath. Get curious about the length of each breath, the quality of it maybe, the depth. You can think of the breath maybe as a vehicle that you are riding, that you've harnessed to take you to presence over and over and over. And the minute you feel you've lost your way, hop back on the breath and ride it in. We become practiced at noticing more readily when we've trailed away. And the best practice in that noticing is to notice without the judgment. Notice it as a matter of fact. I have left this moment, and now I will return. Invite the next breath a little deeper, a little clearer, a little longer, and then bring it back. And return your awareness to your immediate surroundings. And if you're reclined, you might consider waking body up and sitting back up, upright for a bit. If you've been seated, you can wriggle around and stretch and maybe switch the cross of your legs. I think I'm a decent cook. I think the food I prepare tastes good, and my family usually agrees, but I am terrible at being careful when I cook. Not only does it often come out not pretty, not Instagram worthy in the least, but I also am careless with tools. And I admit it, I'm not ashamed. It's just a matter of fact that rarely is there a box grater that hasn't shaved off a little bit of my knuckles, or a knife that hasn't tasted a little bit of my flesh on my fingers, or a flame that hasn't singed some part of me, oven rack, leaving a few scars here and there, battle wounds, if you will. I just get hurt when I cook. And I know why. It's because I'm not being mindful. So I am not careful enough to be paying 100% attention to where that blade is about to be relative to my skin. And it's embarrassing given what I've dedicated my life to. But there it is. I'm working on it. I'm trying. And I was thinking recently about how many other activities we do by rote, and therefore there's all this mental space to be thinking about other things while we're doing the thing, whether it's cooking or taking walks. If you have a dog, walking the dog, showering, driving to a place that you're familiar with the destination or with the route to get there. The list could go on. There are a lot of things that that by right we have learned to do mindlessly. That's how our mind has the capacity it does to be creative or to problem solve or to love, to have emotional richness. That's how we're programmed biologically, that some things have just been ingrained and we don't have to think too hard about them. I would argue that to a certain extent that's lovely, and thank goodness for it, that I don't have to learn my way from home to work or from bread to toast every time. But I think we take advantage. And I think we could all use a little bit more practice in being where we are while we're doing the thing that we rightfully know how to do. And I will tell you that when I remember this, the payoff is not just that I don't cut myself when I'm chopping vegetables, but that the experience of being alive is so much more pleasant. There's a few trails around town where I take my dog in the morning, and when I'm present, when I'm really there with him and with myself and with my environment, the magnificence of the trees and the sound of the water trickling by, and even the traffic in the distance or the airplanes overhead are beautiful accompaniments to my experience of walking. The feeling of a footfall when you're wholly in it is extraordinary. It feels like the miracle of being alive somehow is being revealed over and over and over when we can really attend to that vitality of our experience. A lot of it is being well versed in the sensory realm, so that we take ourselves into the touch, the sound, the sight, and the smell and the taste, especially if you're in the kitchen, ready-made for a full sensory experience. And we know how beautiful and beneficial it is to really be there. And we also know typically why we're not. And that's because we believe, and I think it's fair to say that it's in some part true, that we have other things to do. We have problems to solve. We have relationships to heal. We have lists to make. We have responsibilities to meet. We have things to remember. We have other people that we have to communicate with. We are busy in the world. We have responsibilities. And we can tell ourselves over and over and over again that we'll do better at those things if we just take a break from it and come back and be present, feel all the senses. And then nope, because we're late, or we are afraid, or we are sad or worried, or some fill in the blank emotion that is getting infiltrated and then filled with an expectation that we have to be doing in order to be fixing, in order to not feel so much. The answer is to feel more, but not to feel the imaginations that are always at work driving our mindlessness, but to feel the sensory experience of right here, right now. And I don't think it's necessary for my entire walk on this trail every morning for me to be not thinking about anything else. Not only do I think it's not necessary, I also think it's impossible. A little dose of this sensory mindfulness goes a long way. A little drop of it in the stream of consciousness is incredibly potent. We're really good at convincing ourselves that if we take our eye off the ball, that the whole world is going to fall apart. And you know who is saying this? It's not our wise consciousness. It's not the wisdom part of our awareness. It's the ego. Because the ego believes that it lives right in the center of us and everything else revolves around it. We are the sun in our ego's solar system. And it's a lie. It's a convenient lie. It's an easy, seductive lie to think that if we stop thinking for a minute, that everything is going to fall apart, because there is a drive, again, a biological piece that that insists that we believe that, so that we feed ourselves, so that we get enough sleep, so that we remember to jump out of an oncoming car headed our way. But so the truth stops there. The rest of it is the story we tell ourselves, that we have to keep thinking, keep thinking, keep thinking, and keep thinking, when in the end we're not really thinking at all. We're just busying. We're just distracting ourselves. And so one of the reasons that these mindfulness practices are so powerful is that it takes us out of ourselves. If I'm really paying attention when I'm cooking and when I'm chopping those vegetables that I chopped up this afternoon before I came here, and I really considered those cucumbers, and I thought about where I got them and what it took for them to get to the Trader Joe's where I got them, those sidewalks that I walked from my house to the store, the clerk who checked me out, where he came from, and how his life for that split second was intertwined with mine, and we had a lovely, friendly exchange. And the trucker who I imagine brought those cucumbers to the warehouse and then to the store, and the farmer who grew them, and the soil that nourished them, and the nutrients and the sun and the water that helped to grow those cucumbers. I am in there as much as I am in here. That's why it's a beautiful thing. That's why mindfulness works, because it doesn't take us out of the stuff that we're thinking about. It puts us right in ways that are only beneficial to us and everyone around us. So let's come back into a contemplative state, and you can pick your activity that you're going to contemplate right now, and imagine yourself really immersed in it as you are immersed in your sitting practice right now. After a little bit of time, and I'll cue you through this, we'll let the activity go, and then ideally we'll really land right here in these moments. So I'm going to go back in the kitchen in my mind, because that's where my great challenge is. Trying to keep myself out of the ER. And so imagine your interconnectedness with some activity that you tend to take for granted because you don't really have to think very much about it. And just note a few aspects of it that are reminders of that interconnectedness. And imagine what it might be like if we really fully immersed in that one activity and let some of the distracted mind stuff go. And now come back in and in and in to right now, where presumably the activity is to just be. And combine the alert state of presence and intentionality with an easeful, relaxed approach. Invite the next breath in and allow it back out. Notice where you are. Where has your ego taken you? invite yourself back. You might trace those steps back by recognizing the path of interconnectivity that got you to that place. Come back in not as a centerpiece of ego, but as a connected part of the all. There is no part of us, not one, that isn't part of the entire web of all existence. So trace those threads back to this very next breath. There may be treasures to uncover. You may notice a sensibility of the physical form of yourself that you may not have experienced before, a certain energy quality that's welcoming or soothing. The ego is insistent and persistent. We can meet an awareness of it and remind it of its smallness relative to all that it is connected to, all that it came from, and all that it will produce in the future. In fact, it is just one grain of sand on a beach. Well, not in fact, but as if it is one grain of sand on a vast beachfront. Let's take a few more breaths. Linger in these last moments. And then very gently bringing palms together in front of the heart, and if you'd like to, release the head toward the hands and offer a wish that all beings may be happy and at peace, free from suffering, and continually recognizing our own connection to all others and everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for covering the vegetables.